Hi, hello, and welcome or welcome back, my loves. Today, we're finally going to be talking about piercings again. And at that, one of my favorite piercings, the Christina piercing. Some things you should know if you're thinking about getting one, what to expect if you've made up your mind about getting one, regarding pain, healing, aftercare, and just overall some helpful tips. As always, I'm going to preface this video by saying I am not a piercer anymore, and some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about is going to be just based on my own experience of having this piercing. Everybody is different and reacts differently to piercings, so just because I say X, Y, and Z happened to me, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen to you or that it has happened to you, okay? Okay. If you enjoy these types of videos, please let me know by liking this video and maybe even consider subscribing if you would like to support me and see more from me. And let's get into it. Now, you might be asking yourself, what the fuck even is a Christina piercing? This video autoplayed, and I don't know how I got here, but I'm intrigued by this goth person sitting in front of a bunch of crosses talking about piercings, and this weirdo goth person is about to tell you a Christina piercing is a purely decorative genital piercing. It is a surface piercing placed at the top of the mons pubis, sometimes called the cleft of Venus, and it is on the vulva where the labia meet. I can't put in an actual real life picture of this because I think YouTube would fucking hate that, but Google is still free if you're curious. I think it is a very, very pretty piercing. Some people don't actually consider it a genital piercing because it's just on the outside and, like I said, purely decorative and doesn't really do or enhance anything except look pretty. But I personally would class it as a genital piercing because of the placement. And since it is a surface piercing, you guessed it, there is a higher rate of migration and rejection with this piercing. So aside from, in the first place, choosing a piercer who knows what they're doing and who has experience doing these kinds of piercings, you're also going to want to make sure you don't move the jewellery too much and be really careful to not snag it when, I don't know, removing hair, changing your clothes, having sex, all those things. With Christina piercings, there's a wider range of appropriate jewellery than with most other piercings, and it mostly just comes down to your individual anatomy. But some options are surface bars, curved barbells, J bars, L bars, and sometimes even rings, although those are much less popular because of the snagging factor. They are very cute though. When it comes to attachments, so the part of the jewellery that you can actually see, the world truly is your oyster. The only thing I can say about it is that I personally found those flower or star-shaped ones to be very uncomfortable when worn on the bottom. And I would also advise against wearing something dangly or super big and chunky for long periods of time, because while it may not feel heavy to you, it does put a significant amount of strain on the actual piercing, and with it being a surface piercing and already prone to migrating and possibly even rejecting, I wouldn't want to risk it or make the chances of rejection even higher with wearing jewellery like that for, again, prolonged periods of time. Obviously, if you want to just put them in for a picture or two or a night and you change it before actually going to sleep, that is fine. I just wouldn't wear it all day and all night for 3 weeks. That's a bit much, and it would also probably be kind of annoying in general if it's something dangly, but you do you? Since a Christina piercing is a surface piercing, like I think I've mentioned about a billion times in this video already, it is going to feel a little different than any other genital piercing, but for most people it hurts less. It is obviously still going to hurt because it is a piercing at the end of the day, and I personally find getting surface piercings done to be a very, very strange sensation that I can't really compare to anything else, because it's like someone digging around in a different layer of your skin and then just did. It's kind of weird just overall. And it is one of my least favourite sensations I have ever felt, if I'm going to be completely honest. But pain-wise, it is absolutely bearable. I would rate it about a 3 to 4 out of 10. As always though, say it with me, this is going to vary from person to person depending on your individual pain tolerance. Christina piercings take a really long time to heal, usually 6 to 9 months-ish, but they can take even longer, up to a year, maybe 2 years to like fully heal. But again, since they are super prone to migration and rejection, it is very, very important, if you want your piercing to stick around, to take really good care of it and baby it and wait for jewelry changes as long as somehow possible. Like with any other piercing, my personal recommendation for aftercare would be to spray it 2 to 3 times a day with pre-made saline solution. I personally would recommend the NeilMed brand, but really any sterile saline solution will do the trick. With these piercings, it is especially important to not pick any crusties, because that will move your jewelry. Because moving the jewelry in any way during the healing process is going to add to the already high rate of rejection, and you're going to obviously want to avoid that as much as humanly possible. If it really, really, really bothers you, you can gently remove crusties with a Q-tip or a folded up paper towel that you sprayed with the saline solution before, and just like try to, I don't know how to explain it. You can try to remove the crusties in that way, but be like super triple, double, extra careful to not move the jewelry, because again, migration, rejection, you probably want your Christina piercing to stick around. To avoid infections, I would advise against any form of sex in the first 4-ish weeks, including oral. While we're on the topic, like I said, again, probably about a billion times in this video, to give your Christina piercing a fighting chance, you're going to want to avoid moving the jewelry as much as possible, and you're also going to want to avoid any sort of friction in the area that could move your jewelry, right? Which includes when you have sex in certain positions, obviously. That does not mean you have to be celibate for the entire 6 or 9 or even 12 months of healing, but just a reminder to be mindful of where everyone's hands and mouths and other body parts are, to avoid, again, any sort of friction on your jewelry. Just be careful and remind everybody involved to also be careful. And I would probably avoid positions like missionary altogether, because that's just, I can't think of any like way to be super careful with missionary and still be mindful of the piercing, but not like, you know what I mean? Avoid missionary, period. And to finish up this video, here are some quick fire tips that don't neatly fit into any sort of overarching category that are still important though, in my opinion. Shave or wax before getting the piercing. For a Christina piercing to be performed, there can't be any hair in the area. Your piercer will trim or remove any hair that is still in the way of the piercing being performed, but most people feel more comfortable doing that kind of stuff themselves. So do some sort of hair removal before your piercing appointment. If your preferred method of hair removal is shaving, avoid the area of the piercing for about the first month-ish of healing, just to avoid any unnecessary ingrowns or irritation to the piercing, to the jewellery, to just the entire area. Leave at least like a little landing strip. If you like an all-over shave, eyebrow razors are really good for getting in between and super close to the jewellery without having to remove the jewellery every time you shave. Genital piercings are known to bleed quite a bit, so bring a pad or a panty liner for your appointment so you don't bleed into your underwear. And when sticking the panty liner down, you're probably going to want to move it up slightly further than you usually would, just to cover the entire area of the piercing. I hope I can find some kind of visual for this, because I keep doing a lot of this. The international sign for pussy. And finally, during healing, also just like in general, but mostly during healing this piercing, wear clean cotton underwear that fits you well to avoid, again, snagging the jewellery on any fabric folds. Clean underwear is kind of a no-brainer. You don't want dirt, grime, anything around a fresh piercing, and cotton so that everything can breathe. And that's all, folks. If there's anything else that I didn't cover and that you would like to know, please feel free to ask in the comment section. If you would like to learn more about how to tell if your piercing is rejecting or not, I have a video about just that, which I'm going to link up here and in the description box if you're interested in, again, hearing more about that. Also, let me know if you would ever get a Christina piercing, if you have one, if you would never get one. I personally used to have one since we're sharing. Mine, unfortunately, rejected, didn't heal well. It was a lot of different factors that just contributed to me not having it anymore, unfortunately, as much as I love them. But I don't think I would ever get one again. At this point in my life, I just prefer admiring them on other people and don't feel the need to get another one on myself. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and listening to me yap, because all I care about in life are body mods, and getting to yap about them brings me an immense amount of joy. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!